I can assure you this is going to be the best Ignite talk you have seen so far today. All right, so is the mic? Yes, good on the mic? We are good. Okay, I've been told to hit a button. I've hit that button. Hi, my name's Clinton Wolfe, and I'm a DevOps consultant. I work with OmniTI, and I'm going to be talking to you a little bit today about different words that we use in DevOps, and it'll be really fast, and I'm going to get cut off a lot, and that's fine, and that's how it works. So, goat. Okay, a goat is a very versatile farm animal. You can use its fur, you can use its milk, you can eat it if you want to. They're very friendly as pets, and they're very intelligent. They love to break out of their pens, so they're very hard to contain. Now, in DevOps, we can call somebody a goat. You might refer to someone as being a goat because they are very versatile and intelligent, and they tend to break out of their team. They cross team boundaries and go talk to other people and get other people involved. I don't know how they are as a pet, though. Beat. Canaries. Canaries refers to a method of server deployment. With a canary deployment, you deploy a change to just a few servers, see how well it does, and then if it goes well, then you deploy it to the rest. It's just like a canary in a coal mine. You'd send a canary down, and if it died because of the bad air, then don't send the miners down. Pets and cattle. Pets refers to the older way of managing servers. You would take care of them for a long time. You would try to keep them living. You would keep making fixes to that individual. You cared a lot about the individual. With cattle, on the other hand, they're easily replaced. You don't care about an individual nearly as much. It's like the cloud. You have hundreds of them, and they're easy to make new ones. So you just replace it. It's like cows. Aren't Ignite's great? Kubernetes, K8S. That's short for Kubernetes. Kubernetes is a container management and scheduling system. So the idea is that Kubernetes will create new containers as it needs to based on load or other factors, and arrange them in a certain way and connect them and all that for you. Kubernetes comes from the Greek for navigator. Software supply chain refers to all of the different parts that go into your software. You want to have as few parts and as high quality parts as possible to reduce your software attack surface. This is a big concept in DevOps and security. Go is a language that was developed by Google and is being used increasingly in DevOps because it is very easy to deploy. Go supports high concurrency, but it also supports a deployment model in which you can get down to having one binary that has no dependencies, which we love. I hate dependencies. ChatOps is when you have all of your tools talking through your chat system, like Slack or HipChat or whatever. Like whenever a build happens, you would see it happen in Slack. You can also tell it to go do a build, for example. It's two-way. You can tell it to do things or not. Snowflake refers to a system or process that has been manually tampered with. It's been changed, but outside of automation. This is a very bad thing, and please stop doing it. If something's a special snowflake, there's nothing like it on the rest of the earth, and you don't know how to manage it. Containers refers to a new paradigm of managing systems so that you put everything you need for an application inside a portable box that you can then deploy to different environments. It's a whole new way of thinking, spells the end of configuration management, and it could be the end of DevOps as we know it. Serverless, on the other hand, is a whole new way of doing things where you put everything into little functions that are outside in the cloud, and you don't need any operations or any hardware anymore, and it could spell the end of DevOps as we know it. Beat. Developerless is a whole new way of doing things where you no longer need any of that pesky application stuff or any of those awful developers that you have to deal with. It could spell the end of DevOps as we know it, and it's a fantastic thing. I can't wait for it. It's also not a real thing, of course. Antifragile refers to the property of a system that gets better the more you hit it. So the more damage that it takes, the stronger it becomes. There are some systems out there that are designed this way. Some things like that include, for example, auto-scaling groups. The harder it gets loaded on, the bigger it gets. CAMS refers to a common definition of DevOps. There are several different definitions of what DevOps is, but CAMS is an acronym that stands for culture, automation, measurement, and sharing. Culture refers to the way that we think about each other and the way that we all share the same common business goal. Automation refers to the tools and processes that we use to reach those goals. Measurement means that we make our decisions based on actual data, take a baseline, did it work, et cetera. And sharing means that we take what we learned, do retrospectives on it, and learn from it and share it with each other. This helps us complete the loop around DevOps so that we're able to keep growing. Finally, we have the DevOps Thought Lord. You've heard from several different DevOps thought leaders, but there is in fact only one DevOps Thought Lord, and that is John Hendren right here. Now, if you would like to become certified in DevOps Thought Lording, you can go to his website and click a button and get a DevOps Thought Lord certificate. Finally, if you'd like a much longer version of this with attributions and things, and it's not nearly as funny, you can go to that website that you cannot possibly write down in the time you have. Thank you.
If you missed something, all these speakers and descriptions of their talks are on the schedule, so feel free to check it out.
All right, here we go. So this is my invocation to you to get all of the people at your companies, give them access to your version control. And the reason you should do this is to rethink your version control as a communication tool. It's pretty intuitive and common sense that giving more employees access to communication tools like email or chat makes them more productive. I have found that the same thing is true of the product when you think of your source code that way. What are some of the benefits of letting everybody have access to your source code? It can be a lightweight process. Going too fast here. Yeah, so it's a lightweight process to make like simple copy changes. If the customer support team notices that an error message is kind of confusing and they can write it better, like they can just go change it themselves instead of needing to interrupt an engineer. It lets people you don't have to build CMSs as much because you can just say, oh, like edit the static HTML page in GitHub. This is just like a way to save engineers time and attention. But the more important reasons are the kind of cultural values that showing other people like the version control process instills throughout your organization. One of my favorite virtues of source control is that you're working in a very transparent way. Every change I've ever made is tracked and like there's context around why I did it, what was a shortcut, what did I think through very clearly, and what were the edge cases that I cared about. This is a wonderfully liberating way to have such rich context around why I did things. Then there's also this like organizational consensus. It's no longer me just like YOLO on the code. Like my colleagues were like, oh yeah, I think this is a beneficial change. When you combine this like political consensus with this transparency way of working, you get a blameless culture where people feel trusted and empowered to make improvements to things in like this very safe environment. That's a wonderful culture to have. A personal reason why you should do it is that you will increase your impact. So this is a way to give lots of other people in your organization a tool that can make them more productive at their jobs. As you mature in your careers, you can think of like increasing your scope of impact so that you're having this like ever-growing number of people that you are lifting up. Teaching other people to use GitHub is a great way to make them more productive. This is my appeal to authority with John Allspot saying that this is kind of like actually the job of mature engineers is to give other people these kinds of skills. It also instills a culture of continuous learning. Like this, it can be sort of a daunting, confusing thing to learn. Git is not the most intuitive thing at first, but it's sort of empowering people. It's saying we trust you to do better and improve. So this list of things is sort of like the table stakes for doing this well and sort of reassuring people that they are not going to catastrophically damage your product or take down your website or something like that. I'm going to talk about concerns that people may have, that they will break the site. I can say empirically, like this has not happened. The technical complexity of like what are often copy changes are just not that risky. Engineers break the site far more often. People think it's a security liability. That's true, but I think that's also true of every communication tool that your employees have. I think what's going on in most of our source code repositories is no more sensitive than what's discussed in chat or what's discussed at your company all hands. They don't need it for their job. This is a really small-minded idea of what people's jobs are. People's jobs are to add value to the company however they can. If they're willing to learn your engineering process so that they can be better at their job, don't close the door, get out of their way. So we do a class called GitHub for Poets, where we sort of train other staff on how to do this. This is a screenshot of a pull request from my friend Emma with just lots of good vibes about and excitement about this class. At Kickstarter, where I work, 46 people have gone through this process. That's twice the size of the engineering team. There's over 1,800 commits where they have improved the product without needing to interrupt a designer or an engineer. Thank you very much. I'm Aaron Suggs. I go by K-Theory on the internet, and I do operations engineering at Kickstarter.
Hi, my name is Gabe Ortiz. I'm Senior Infrastructure Engineer over at Agari Data, where we're trying to solve phishing and spear phishing as a vector for cyber attack. And I'm here today to talk to you about why database automation is hard. So at one point, we ran our databases on very heavy, very expensive infrastructure in data centers. And this was great because it almost never went down. The problem, of course, was that it wasn't very flexible. So we moved all of our infrastructure to the cloud. And this afforded us a lot of different advantages in terms of being agile and in terms of being able to scale out our infrastructure basically on a whim. The other thing that the cloud is really good at is allowing you to consume managed services. So if you can help it, I really recommend that you don't run your own databases if you're in a cloud environment. Because there are a bunch of other solutions that are way better and will save you a lot of aggravation and frustration and tearing your hair out. So Amazon RDS, Google Cloud SQL, Bigtable, DynamoDB, these are all great solutions. But if you're like us, sometimes you need to actually run your own databases. So you need to worry about things like replication and failover. And this is actually one of the hairiest problems in database automation. Because the existing tool set, things like Chef, Ansible, and Puppet, are really, really bad at managing stateful data stores. So it's great if you have an application server over here, you have a load balancer over there, and it doesn't really need to maintain a lot of state. You can kind of just spin one up and do whatever, but it doesn't manage the state of things like long-running applications like databases. In the Postgres world, we have a few different solutions to that. We use Rep Manager because it's probably one of the most well-supported and well-known. There's Patroni and Manatee that are based on slightly more cutting-edge stuff. So we just use this to manage the state of our database and basically do replication and failover in case something happens. So it just reacts to the environment as it's given, and it interacts with the AWS API in order to intelligently react to those situations. An important thing to remember is that no matter how great your replication system is, all it takes is one developer who thinks he's on stage when he's really on prod, and your replication server will very happily drop all of the tables. So backup is something that you have to think about as being completely separate from replication. So there's, again, tools that will help out with this. So we've used a couple, Wally and Barman. Wally is great for a pure AWS environment because it ships your write-ahead logs directly into S3 as well as your base backups. So you can get point-in-time recovery directly from S3, protects you against a bunch of catastrophic stuff. But of course, the right solution is very much dependent on your architecture. Barman is better if you're in a data center or if you have just basically a big disk where you're going to ship all of your backups to. And the other thing I wanted to talk about that we've run into is migration. Now, migration is a thing that you'll probably have to face if you're running databases in the cloud because you're going to move from one environment to another. You're going to change AWS accounts. You're going to redeploy a brand new system, and it's a giant pain. But atomic snapshots are your friend. So basically, you take a point in time on your block device, make sure your database is a consistent state. You take another one, and the delta of change between those becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. And at some point, you have a small enough interval where you can just stop your writers and then flip over to the new system, and you're golden. A really useful metaphor that I've found in thinking about all of this is you just heard about cattle, not pets, right? So this is taking that metaphor one step further, bots, not cattle. So the reason that I'm saying bots, not cattle is there's a problem with cattle. And the problem with cattle is that they're not very smart. So basically, if you think about your automation in terms of automating the actual application itself, as opposed to the environment that it's in, then you can start to use this kind of metaphor and think about like what your application needs to know about itself. And Josh Burkis did a really great talk about this. I encourage checking out the URL there. And that's it. Thanks very much. Hit me up on Twitter.
So I have two main goals during this talk. One, I want to tell you how we do mission critical DevOps. And second, I want to give an Ignite talk without sounding like an auctioneer on his 6th cup of espresso. So we do DevOps for live events. This includes 4 Grand Slam tennis tournaments, the Australian Open, the French Open, Wimbledon, and the US Open, as well as a major golf tournament, the Masters. This results in 93 event days. An event day for us is when we have people on the ground at the venue working with our partners and customers to deliver live scoring instantaneously around the world. It's also when the world is watching our infrastructure. Every single one of these days is like Black Friday for our customers. They have spent 50 weeks preparing for these 2 weeks. It's their time to show off to the world, and it's also when they earn the majority of their revenue. We deliver over a hybrid cloud. So we have 3 private data centers and 4 public cloud regions. And we need our DevOps systems to work seamlessly across both the private and the public cloud. We also need extreme portability. 2 years ago, we served out of nothing but private infrastructure. Last year, all of our sporting events were served out of a public cloud. Next year, we plan to serve out of a managed infrastructure as a service called Blue Box. And we have a huge scale problem. For a typical live event, we're managing over 50,000 different resources. And we converge those resources at an average of over 80 per second. And we have another scale problem as well. We have 80 people in 8 time zones in 35 different work locations. This means we need tools that let people work independently, yet collaborate when necessary, and also work safely together. Because both the IBM brand and the brand of all these sporting events are on the line every single day when we're at the job, we need tools, systems, practices, and methods that let us move quickly yet safely. Some of the tools we use Chef for configuration management. We use Jenkins to do all of our continuous integration building. We use GitLab to host our source control, and we use Urban Code Deploy for every deployment in the infrastructure. Every single change that makes it out goes into source control. This includes operating system images, RPMs that we build, our configuration management, application management. If it's not version controlled, it doesn't even make it into test. The first test we do is static analysis. We take in both the best of community rules, and we have a lot of rules that we've built ourselves over years and years of code reviews that we've codified into static analysis checks. If you make it past that step, then we do a full stack test. We spin up a virtual machine, we apply our operating system, we apply our security lockdowns, and then we apply both your configuration management change or your application. If you pass that, we then start to enforce comparison. Because our team works around the clock and around the globe, before something goes to production, we use our deployment tool to look at the current state out there. It pulls back a diff of your change and what's actually running, and you have to agree that's the change you want to make. Then you have to roll it out. So we do an incremental rollout. You can roll it to 1 cloud region at a time. And our process is you roll it out, you validate it, you make sure it works. And if you're happy with the change, you can roll it back to, you can roll it forward to the rest of the regions. If you hit a problem, we essentially have a big red easy button. Assuming the change is non-destructive, you can go back into our deployment tool, find the version that last worked, press the play button, and almost instantaneously be back to where you were. Now this sounds great, and this is how we do almost all of our normal changes. However, unfortunately during live events, sometimes things have to happen immediately and right now. So we've built some tooling that lets us move even quicker than normal. Because we converge every 10 minutes, if you make a manual change, that change is gone within 10 minutes. So we have a tool on every single node that lets you disable converge, and it will log who disabled it, so you can go beat that person up later and say, why is this node not converging? And if that 5 to 10 minutes it takes for you to do the full stack test is too long, if you tag any commit with hashtag skipCI, it'll skip the continuous integration testing and move it directly to our deployment systems, where you can push it out as necessary. I hope this gives you a glimpse of how we do mission critical DevOps at IBM for sporting events. If you have any questions, please feel free to engage with me on Twitter. Thanks.
Okay, I'm the final speaker. Everybody else has done amazing thus far. This is not going to be amazing. All right, so we've all been there. You get that email that management wants to do something different. This time it's DevOps. Oh crap. So this is actually one of their better decisions when it comes to changing the organization. I started my DevOps adventure about 2 years ago at Red Hat. I was part of the Inception and Convergence projects. I was able to actually take those skills to the reference architecture team in engineering and release our documents much faster than we had in the previous years. So the first part of DevOps is to pause, because it can be eye-rolling and overwhelming at times. And the main thing is to figure out what you should change and why you should change it within your organization. Sorry, slides. All right, so why change? Management wants to make everybody do their best work. They want to move faster. They want to keep up with the industry trends of, well, that guy over there is doing DevOps, why aren't I? Or they read it in a magazine. So one of the most marketed pieces of DevOps is automation. Probably if you see a lot of brochures and tweets out there, that's the only part of DevOps. This is the part that comes through with the least effort, but it allows everybody to focus on other things. Right here is a non-automated workflow. We've all been there. Dev writes code, dev packages it, hands it off to ops, ops releases it, and then they play tag back and forth wondering if the release is actually successful or not. We're better than that. That actually sucks. So that's why we should automate some things. I say some things because if you try to automate everything at once, you're never going to get off the ground, and you're just going to have a half-ass deployed automation. So there's definitely some quick wins when it comes to automation. My favorite is Jenkins. I can pretend that I'm a developer and put bash and Ansible into Jenkins, and it does automated tasks for me. And then it pipes out success or failure based on my tasks. There's also not as quick wins. These are things where you go back, you rewrite your code to support either containers or an elastic-based environment to allow for canary deployments, different things like that. This one requires a lot more time. So you guys might be asking, what about change records? The cool thing is ServiceNow, Jira, things like that, they offer APIs you actually can hit with scripts to create and update change records. And Jenkins also will actually post job statuses to IRCs, and when changes start and changes end, right in IRCs, so everybody knows what's going on. If your organization is using emails for changes, it's crap. It's only a one-way communication system. All right, so here is the automated workflow that we actually used for convergence and inception. Hands off completely. This actually allowed a really small team to move very, very fast in actually getting software out the door. But the thing is, we have to actually measure success or failure. You can actually pipe all your Jenkins stuff into Elk or Splunk and then create a nice dashboard that says, success or failure. When you see dev at 20 failures but prod at 0, It's a great thing. And now the piece that companies cannot sell you, culture. Culture is not a ping pong table. It's the ability to ask questions about anything and know that you're not going to be looked down upon. Question everything. Some questions are like, why do we have 22 open up to the entire world? Why did I have to almost hold this microphone here at the beginning of the presentation? If you don't ask these questions, you'll never get the answers or advance your culture anymore. Everyone's opinion matters, from interns to your development team to your sysadmins. I, as an admin, love working with developers because they have a great view that anything is possible. They just need the time to build it. Communication is very big. Put a bunch of people in a room, find out what's bad or broken within your organization. That's the easiest way to get feedback on what you actually need to plan on it and create an action plan to actually fix it. There's definitely bad behaviors that'll come out of this. Ryan broke the environment, or that's not my job. You want to actually do everything you can in your power to break down these bad behaviors in your environment and fix them so that it's just a solid flow and then everybody's really comfortable in what they do. So the last piece is have demos. Splurge on some pizza, show everybody the awesome work that you guys have done. Make them jealous and want to work on your project or be part of it somehow. And then finally, you're not going to be Netflix. Sorry, I'll tell you that now. But that's all right. I mean, at the end of the day, if you can make your organization 1% better, that's all that matters. Everybody's going to be happier. You're going to get stuff out the door. It's a good thing. So that's it.
Joe, enjoy those Ignite talks? The fun? We're going to do more tomorrow. I've on good authority, because I was sitting next to Ryan's coworker.